I think it's a team for the ages. I mean, this team, well, what they have in front of them is it's a new season, but I think I feel great about it, and I look down on that field and I like everything I see.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. That was former Michigan head coach Lloyd Carr talking about this year's Wolverines last week. A team for the ages, and that's before they even beat Purdue. Now they're into the Final Four. It is definitely on its way towards that with a chance to win 2 more games. You know that, and I know that. That's that's one of the reasons that you are here, because you like Michigan football and Michigan sports, and we're live weekdays at 1:00 talking about the latest in Michigan sports. I noticed just right before I was coming on here that I bit my tongue, which happens every once in a while. I don't remember biting it, but I definitely did. So as I'm talking here, if I sound a little bit like I have, like, you sound like you have a swollen tongue, or I think I do. So we'll see. I'll go through it, and if it becomes, I don't think it's going to. Pain is not going to be the question. It's going to be listenability. If it sounds like that I'm not sounding good, then I'll have to cut it short. Well, today we have 22 days until the semifinal in the Fiesta Bowl. Before we get going anywhere, I do want to pass along some condolences, and it is to the family of Dametrius Walker, Meechie Walker, who I found out passed away this morning. So I dedicate today's show to Dametrius Meechie Walker. I loved your smile, Meechie, and Godspeed, young man. Today, as far as just talking about sports, what Meechie really liked, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to look to the running back position. I was asked yesterday, who is Michigan's running back 2? And there's quite a few candidates. We'll go through them and we'll examine them, and we will talk about who's running back 2. Last night, a Michigan basketball player put on a show. His name, Doug McDaniel. We'll look back to his first start. Also, not this year, not next year, but the following year, there will be a 12-team playoff in college football. There's a 4-team playoff right now. What if that 12 team was in this year? Where would the controversy be? What would it be like? We'll examine it and take a look at how it would unfold if it was in play this year. But we start out with 22 days away from the semifinal in Glendale, Arizona, with Michigan against TCU. Asking you, and we ask for your feedback on this. We asked just how concerned you are about Michigan's semifinal. The betting line, I see, might even be down to like 7.5, if that's a big deal to you. It's a pretty big line, still. When you think about getting to a semifinal, Michigan was a pretty big underdog last year, about the same when they were playing Georgia, but they were the ones getting the points. This time they're the one giving the points. So, looking through, does it matter the rest of there's 40 other bowl games. Michigan's not the biggest favorite, but they're one of. There's not a spread that's bigger than 10.5. I didn't see. I was going through it pretty quick. I don't completely hold me to that. I think is what the way I'm trying to say it is. I was thinking, well, is Michigan's the biggest favorite? That's what I was wondering, and I started going through. No. North Carolina's getting 10 points. There's a couple other teams that are laying 10s, but Michigan is a heavy favorite. And you might just think, I'm a little guilty of this myself. I'm kind of looking at TCU. I like Max Duggan, their quarterback, who won the Davy Bryan Award last night. So he's got that hardware. He's heading to New York, and the way that he played against Kansas State, where, if you watch that game and you're a college football fan, you came away being a fan of Max Duggan. I mean, the guy was putting the team on his back, literally, like running the ball. Just it did matter. Quarterbacks, when they said, we said this with JJ McCarthy a lot during the season. It's like, he's got to go down, he's got to slide, he's got to get out of bounds. And JJ wasn't doing that against Ohio State. And Max Duggan was not doing that in the Big 12 championship game. That dude was lining up and he was, bowling guys over. And there was the one play late in the game of the fourth quarter where he got into the end zone and he went down on one knee. And I don't think it was to praise the Lord. He was just completely gassed. And even the commentators are like, maybe they'll have to call a timeout because he's just because they were going for 2 after that. They're just going to have to call a timeout. Or were they going for 2? I don't know. They were thinking about it. They must have, because they were saying maybe they should call a timeout. And then afterwards, I don't know if you saw this. I just saw it in the last couple of days, his post-game news conference where he was just talking about, the question was, do you think you'll be worthy of getting into the college football playoff? And he was so distraught over the loss. And there were some tears, and his face was welling up, and he cared. When you get athletes, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. That he knew that the spot that they were in, and even though that they had a chance of still getting in, having a perfect season is even more than that. Like that's the one thing with Michigan. Like Michigan could have gotten in. I mean, that was the one thing about the Big Ten title game. It was like, people were saying it. I was saying it myself. It's like, Michigan, it wasn't exactly a free roll because they were playing for a Big Ten title, which is important. I mean, you get a ring, you win the Big Ten, but the big prize, like if I would have told you, again, I say I don't like playing this game, and yet I play it all the time. If I would have told you before the Purdue game that Michigan would lose against Purdue, and yet they would go on and win the college football playoff and win the national championship, everybody would take that. Everybody. But in the meantime, you don't get to play that game. You play that game a lot in basketball, where you get over there and you don't win the regular season conference. You want to win the regular season Big Ten. It even means, like, some people try to argue about the conference tournament, that, that could be more important. It's not more important. It's important. It's a ring. It's a championship. It's nice. You go on a little run. I enjoy them myself, but it's not as big as winning the regular season. There could be a case made in some spots if you had some injuries or something, but for the most part, winning the regular season, it's it over the long haul, and what it says for your team, it says a lot. And you do get that championship, but everybody knows that it's about the NCAA tournament, and you would always take getting to the Final Four over winning a regular season conference championship in basketball. Certainly you would take cutting down the nets and winning it all over winning a regular season or like a Big Ten tournament championship. So, but that's it's one of the things that I'm over here thinking about playing that game. I ask you out there just how concerned you are about TCU. Chris is asking me a question right out of the gate. Let's just take a look at it. In your opinion, what type of game statistically does JJ have to have for a comfortable Michigan win? Against TCU, I don't think that this game is on JJ McCarthy. I think JJ can play the way that he played. Like, I think that JJ can play the way that he's played game 1 through game 11 against TCU. And I think Michigan can win the game comfortably. That is, I don't think he needs to be great on the ground. I don't think he needs to make all these big plays with his arm. I don't think he needs to, have the kind of game that he had against Ohio State. But I think on January the 9th against Georgia, I think they are going to need that kind of JJ. They're going to need the JJ that they had against Ohio State, who is making big plays all over the place with his arm, making big plays with his legs, supremely confident, running the ball in, running the team like a boss. I mean, all of those things. So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. Specifically, like, I don't think he needs to throw for 200 yards or run for 100. So I think a very modest game statistically for JJ McCarthy, but it's a good lead into just looking at the numbers. Both of these teams are going to put up a lot of points. You look, if we go by the numbers, and at this point, why wouldn't we? We have 12, now 13 games for both of these teams to take a look at it. And scoring offense-wise, points per game, when you look at how these two teams match up, Michigan, they averaged over 40 points per game. I remember in the preseason saying, this would be the goal, Michigan averaging 40 points. If they do that, they're going to have a great season. And here they are, 40.1 points per game. That was good for 7th in the country. Meanwhile, TCU, they have a very good offense. They can put up a lot of points. They have put up a lot of points. It was the Big 12. That's true. But they got a tick or two above Michigan, and they rank 6th in the country, averaging over 40 points, 40.3 points per game. So 2 high-octane offenses going at it. The difference in this game is on the other side of the ball going into it, and that is scoring defense, how many points you give up per game. Michigan gave up 13.38 points per game. That was good for 5th overall in scoring defense in the NCAA. That's really good. Meanwhile, TCU was tied for 57th. That's 2 slots behind Michigan when it comes to defense. 2 very comparable offenses, not comparable on the defensive side, where TCU gave up 25 points a game. Advantage, Michigan. Big time advantage there when it comes to Michigan and TCU. 2 good offenses, 1 good defense. Does it mean automatically Michigan, has a bye that, that they're going to beat TCU? No, they got to go out there and play the game. But you feel good about Michigan having the opportunity to get to the championship game. You like the matchup for them. You like the numbers. You like everything. It should be it feels like it's going to be a great New Year's Eve for Michigan. Chris is saying, or I guess he's asking another question. Is there credence to the idea that TCU, having played Big 12 defenses, will need to make significant adjustments in order to effectively attack a top 5 Big 10 Michigan defense? What changes would it be? Well, I mean, they're like, if I'm looking at Michigan, like, who has had success against Michigan offensively? Well, you did have Talia in the Big 10 opener for Michigan. Talia did put up 27 points, and they were within 1 score in the 4th quarter. Talia is he's a dual threat quarterback, which is what Max Duggan has to say. I think that Maryland's offense is going to, and TCU will look at what Maryland was able to do, and with their quarterback, and they're going to say, there's our chance. And as we watched, Clifford for Penn State, he had that big run in the first half for the Nittany Lions. And the idea that Duggan could take off and get a chunk play, 20, 30, 40, 50 yards or something, you're going to be encouraged when you watch the film. If you're a Horned Frog fan that way, I think overall Max Duggan, just being a dual threat quarterback and being the Davey O'Brien winner, being the Heisman finalist that he is, that's where, you're, whether it's an advantage, that's where you're going to have him, playing his game, and that is taking big shots. This is a team that goes vertical. They've got the big wide receiver in Quentin Johnson who goes 6'4", but they got a stable. They have at least 3-4 wideouts, and this is not a dink and dunk type passing game. This is a 3-4 wide, vertical, shoot them down the field, throw it up for grabs, get some 50-50 balls in there. And they will, talking about TCU, they will have watched Michigan. And you think about the Michigan State game and Keon Coleman, there was at least 2, maybe 3. And I know there was, some arm fighting and on a Michigan standpoint, pushing off from Coleman. But whatever you think about that, they were able to win some 50-50 balls that way with Coleman. And I think that's what TCU, that's going to be the game. They're going to have to go out there and they're going to be throwing the ball down the field at the Michigan corners, and they're going to be throwing some jump balls. And is TCU going to be instructed to push off? No, but they are going to be instructed to fight and know that if I'm over there and I'm Sonny Dykes, I'm saying, look, we have to score a lot of points. I don't know if he needs to say it like that. We need to put up some points on this team. And how we're going to do it is we're going to be firing this ball down the field to our wide receivers. You guys got to go over there and fight for the ball. And they know what that means. They know arm bars. They know some hand fighting. Yeah, some pushing. They're going to see, I think, the adjustment. If there is going to be an adjustment, that's going to be their game plan. Get the ball down the field to their wideout, specifically their 6'4" wideout, number 1, Johnson, who had the big game against K-State, 139 yards. Throw it up to him and see if he can go up and high point some balls and fight with the Michigan corners and see what the referees. Be aggressive. Be aggressive with your wide receivers. Be aggressive in the passing game, in the vertical passing game. That's how I see that playing out, that particular aspect of the game. Chris, I like the questions. I like getting into it. Riley is with me. It looks like you have to defend the deep pass without defensive pass interference. They like to chuck it. Smack Duggan when he runs it, and we'll be just fine. That's it, Riley. That's my focus right now. There might be some more focus. I haven't gone through. I watched a little bit of TCU this year. TCU played a lot of close games. So I think also they have the confidence of being in the fourth quarter and being able to execute. You remember the game of the last one that they had where they had to run out they ran the ball with the clock running down. They ran their field goal unit out there and were able to kick the ball with 1 or 2 seconds to go, and they were able to win that game. That was an amazing performance. And then they've been down, to Kansas State, who they lost to in the Big 12 championship game. They beat them earlier in the year, and they were down, 18 points in this. I don't know if it was, I think it was early in the second half, but that's a pretty substantial deficit. And they were still able to come back. So they have the belief, I'm sure, that no matter how far they get down, that they can come back. They have done it this year. They also have the experience in the close games. Would they feel like they're a team of destiny if they would have been able to take down K-State? Now, it's funny how that works. I would never want to lose a game. But you do lose a game, it can kind of focus you again and say, okay, we know what that's like. We didn't like it. And now here we have another chance, because for a second, I'm sure it's not like TCU was automatically saying after that game and they wanted an undefeated season, like, oh, we're in for sure. We don't have anything to worry about. Even though everybody else nationally and even here locally, we're thinking TCU deserves it. I would have been really nervous about Nick Saban. I was for TCU and for Michigan, really nervous about the Tide getting in there. But we don't have to be nervous about that anymore. Lyle says, I think we return to early season, run a ton, so JJ will be less than normal. Count 22 is saying Duggan hasn't seen a defense like this. Good luck. That's true. He has not. Antoine, let's see what Antoine, he's probably watched every game. He watches. He doesn't just watch. As Antoine pointed out this week, Antoine is not just watching the highlights. He's watching the game. So he gets a feel for what's going on. So Antoine is saying TCU is not going to be able to do too much of anything with that 3-3-5 defense. The 3-3-5 is designed to stop pass-happy offenses It's made for the Big 12 football, not Big 10 football. It's one that is I think, excellent point, as always. The old 3-3-5 and 3-for-3-5. Somewhere Rich Rodriguez will be watching that game saying, yeah, I'm going to turn on the TV, check it out. 3-3-5. I brought that up to Michigan. Troy, Michigan has the playoff experience, makes a difference. Yeah, I don't think it hurts. I'll buy that. I'm going to buy that. Troy, if you're selling me that last year Michigan going through it and getting to the Orange Bowl and playing against Georgia, and many of these of Michigan players with that experience, the bowl preparation, beating Ohio State, and then going in there to a semifinal on New Year's Eve, is that going to help Michigan? Good point, Troy. I'm with you on that. I feel like over the next 22 days, if I have an opportunity, there'll be some people that will, do some interviews or something. I think I'm going to take that one from you, Troy. I like that. I think that helps for sure. Having to go through it and having that experience, that's a good one. I like that one. You guys are on top of it here today. The coach saying Michigan should be able to pound them into submission. Wow. Andres. He's a P1. Good afternoon, Michigan football feedback contributor. I think they will have to, specifically, they run the 3-3-5, which is especially weak against power sets that Michigan runs. There it is. Tweak the 3-3-5. Yeah, I was thinking about what TCU was going to be doing offensively. Defensively, tweaking the 3-3-5, because Michigan is going to come out and maul them on the ground with their offensive line, with their Remington award-winning center and Oluwatimi. Yeah. That's why when you have an offensive line, defense travels, offensive line travels, running game travels, Michigan with the experience. I felt good about Michigan's chances against TCU coming up in 22 days. I am 22 minutes into this show, and I feel better about Michigan's chances against TCU coming up in 22 days. So how about that? Speaking of 22, that's the number for today. Account 22. Talking about running right through them. Jesse he's studied TCU. I don't think they'll beat Michigan, but they are way bigger than I thought they would be. Way bigger, says Jesse after looking at the film. 3-3-5 is one of those things that people are looking at a lot. Andre's talking about the 3-3-5. They will be banking on getting TFLs, but of course, the entire game, Michigan should be able to pound them. AM saying, I'm a Cincy guy. But the same thing happened to Cincy versus Bama last year. Cincy probably had a better defense than TCU, and Michigan is more physical last year than Bama. Lyle, looking ahead to our next topic, talking about running back 2. Well, let's get to that, Lyle. Darby saying, I think we beat TCU. I will be shocked if we don't. Shocked, he says. Let's see. So let's get over to, here's somebody that is worried. M Go Blue. That's a good handle for this show. I'm a little worried about our running game because Edwards can't carry the whole load. There's a concern. The media just badly wants them to be good. I don't know who he's talking about. Texas, maybe? Oh, with the Doak Walker Award winner going to Bijan Robinson. Yeah, look, you can get upset about a Bijan and, not all of the awards going to Michigan. Let me tell you how a lot of these awards and the guys that are picking them, how it works. I do think like when they nominate writers across the Big Ten to have a vote for first, second, third team honorable mention in the conference, I think those guys take it seriously. I don't think they're just out there like, I'm just going to vote for whoever. I'm just going to vote for favor my team. I don't think. I think most of these guys are taking it seriously. Across the country, when you get into the bigger awards, the bigger the award, the less you've got, the less serious I think the people that are voting put into it. And a lot of times, like Coach of the Year, Harbaugh didn't win Coach of the Year. A lot of times, it's not really who does the best job; it's who kind of comes out of nowhere and did not have expectations and ends up doing it. In a way, it's a compliment that Jim Harbaugh didn't win the national award. And I think the same thing about Blake Corum. I think that these national people, the people that are voting for the national award, they might look at some statistics. They also might just say, like, look, Corum's, going to the national. I don't know exactly what they're thinking is. I do know this. I was listening to, the Heisman Trophy. They have so many people that are voting. And I was listening to Chris Mad Dog Russo this week. I listened to his show. He does a show every day on Sirius XM. And I started listening to the Mad Dog only in the last couple of years. Actually, when the pandemic started, I started listening to him. And he's pretty entertaining. And Russo really knows baseball. Like when the baseball playoffs are coming around or the off season, the hot stove, he's really good, man. He knows. I mean, he is into it. He hosts a baseball show, and that's his thing. He loves baseball, and I like listening to him talk about baseball. I like listening to him talk about golf. He's got good connections in golf and tennis. He loves tennis. Like, you want to start talking about, who you think when it's coming down to, the great matches and all the, he is into it, and, he's on top of all of that when it comes to the tennis. He's now on a First Take. I don't watch Stephen A. Smith fight it out. Sometimes I see some of the clips sometimes, but I think he's doing that now. But what I do know about him is that he really doesn't watch college football. He brings on Gary Danielson, but he doesn't really watch it. I don't know if he's outright admitted, like, I don't watch football, but he watches the pros. And that's the thing. Even if you're a national host, or you're a local host, what the people's specialty are. I've got news for you. I worked with a lot of these guys. They're not going home every night and watching every Piston game, every Red Wing game, probably watch the Lions. But for the most part, they're not, watching as many games as you. They're doing other things. And so Mad Dog, I say all this, it's taking a long time. I should have just said it like this. I'm listening to him this week, and he says, I have a vote for the Heisman. And I was thinking, wow, Russo? The Mad Dog who doesn't really watch, he's a pro guy. He's a baseball guy. He doesn't. Why does he have a vote? Well, because he's a Hall of Fame radio host, national host. There's no bigger name, than this guy. That's why he has a vote. Well, then he goes through and he says, what did he call Dugan? He's like, I voted for Max Dugan. And then, he's like, I voted for Stenson Bennett. He voted for Caleb Williams, number one, which I would have. But then he was like, and then I voted for Max Dugan. Like, he didn't even know how to say the quarterback's name that he was voting for TCU. I mean, like, I was thinking, your credibility, but people don't care. I mean, I don't know. It just showed me he even exposed himself, and you're not going to get, like, I don't get everybody's name properly pronounced all of the time. Sometimes it takes a while, but if you're tasked with naming 3 of the most outstanding college football players of the year, and you're not watching all the games, and people pretty much know that, and when it comes down to reveal your vote, hey, how about you check the spelling of a guy's name or the pronunciation of a guy's name and go out there? You're a broadcaster. I thought that was pretty weak. But that's it. Like, so, these are popularity contests. So when it comes down to it, like you would have voted for Blake Corum, Bijan Robinson is an outstanding running back. I mean, he's a great running back. It's hard to. Did he get jobbed? That's it. There it is. Let's look at some more numbers and keep her going here. Max Duggan. That's how Russo would say it. Max Duggan, first TCU quarterback to win the Davey O'Brien Award. Guess where Davey O'Brien went to college? TCU. So he's the first TCU quarterback to win the award that was named after a TCU quarterback in Davey O'Brien. Looked at the scoring defense. TCU's rushing defense is not very good. That has been pointed out here. It is. I don't know if it was exactly 66. I thought it was even lower than that, but it's not very good. Michigan does have the advantage when it comes down to their running game. Speaking of their running game, we know about Donovan Edwards being running back number 1. Who's RB2 for Michigan? Well, against Ohio State, it was Khalil Mullings. Now, CJ Stokes, I think it's either going to be Mullings or Stokes. Edwards handling, 20 some odd carries. What did he have against Purdue? 25 carries. And then you're talking about what did Mullings had. I'd have to look specific. I know that Edwards, I have it written down right here, 25. I think that Mullings had 8. How many more carries are we thinking about? I think Stokes, if healthy, is going to get a series or 2. And I think that they will go with, how he's looking and the game flow. And I think Michigan is going to try to just bowl over the Horned Frogs and run it down their throat. So I think you would see 20 some odd carries for Donovan Edwards, 5 to 10 carries for Mullings, especially in short yardage situations. And then you have a series or 2 for Stokes, and you're going to see how he's doing and how he's performing. And then, he could earn some more carries. Could he do it over these bowl practices? I don't know, the possibility there. And then you've got the wild cards in Tavier Dunlap and Isaiah Gash, who you have seen over the last few games, both of those guys. And Gash in particular, with the game on the line against Illinois, Michigan threw a pass to him down in the red zone, and he flat out dropped it. And then with the game on the line, with a 4th down situation, they went back to Gash on this comeback little route for a 1st down, 4th down with the season hanging in the balance, and he ended up catching it. So you would think that as a pass receiver down the line, Gash, more of a running situation. If they're going deeper, now we're talking about running back 4 or 5. That's where you'd go with Dunlap. That's it. Running back 2, based on what I saw, I think it's Khalil Mullings, but I think it's going to be down in distance. Would it be a huge shock? I'm over here saying it. Who's running back 2? Khalil Mullings. But let's say you're going for a change of pace, and Michigan has the ball from their own 20, and it's a 1st down, and Edwards is just, gone for, his normal, 60-yard gallop for a touchdown, and, Michigan gets a 3 and out, and they're like, well, let's get somebody else in there. I'd easily could see getting a series in there as running back 2 for CJ Stokes to see how he does. I think it's going to be game, yardage, and time specific when it comes down to who they're utilizing. A short yardage situation type deal. Let's say Ed Edwards runs for 60 yards on the first play of the second half, like he did against Purdue, and he gets it down to the 5-yard line. I think that, it wouldn't be a surprise. In fact, I would expect number 20 to go running out there and be the goal line back for Michigan in that situation. So I know, people are like, who's it going to be? It's going to be specific to where they are on the field, whether it comes down to being Stokes or Mullings. That's how I see it. MGO Blue says we need one of our running backs to step up. I think other than Donovan Edwards you're talking about, well, Mullings has stepped up. I think maybe you're talking about we need CJ Stokes to step up. I think if you're saying that, I would agree. You know, there's some opportunity in there. And I don't know, he got banged up in some of these situations. We know that he fumbled earlier, and it was like, you know, it was like they sent him to Siberia or something. Everybody, like, he fumbled, and it was like, that was it. We're not going to see CJ Stokes anymore. And he slowly was able to come back and get into the good graces of the coaches. So I don't know. Maybe he puts it on the ground a lot during practice or whatever. But I would say that they have had. Mullings is the definition of stepping up. He has totally stepped up. Gash, you know, it was only one play, but you know, there was no bigger play in the entire season than the play that Isaiah Gash made. So, you know, the one that Brent Bielema was crying about, and because it was an illegal play, and you know they would have been able to win the game. But number 41, he stepped up after, you know, seemingly losing the game and dropping the ball. So yeah. AJ says TCU plays hard on defense. Jesse talking about statistics against cupcakes. What are your stats against the big boys? Michigan's pretty damn good. Yeah. I'm with you, Jesse. Jesse, you're on top of it. Like, you know, you can try to make a case for TCU. I think you make a case for TCU and you say they've got a quarterback that won't die. That he's going to give every inch of that, every lock of his red hair. He is going to leave it all out there on the field. And I see that. There's a lot of people that are big fans. And I think I was going to say there are going to be a lot of people that are pulling for TCU. State fans will be. I don't know if there's going to be anybody else. When you don't have a horse in the race and you're just there watching football, I do think you gravitate just as a fan at first to a big-time underdog and Duggan because what you saw from him last game. So there'll be a little bit of, across the country. That doesn't really matter. I don't think those are the people that are going to be in the stadium. They're not going to affect that at all. But I also know you get into a situation where you're a fan, you're going to say you also want the best matchup for the national championship game. And whatever the numbers will end up being for the semifinal, they'll be good. The Michigan TCU game, if it's close. But if TCU somehow would win the game, the numbers, and then they're not going to be very good against Georgia. Sure, people will watch it. The gigantic underdog, the biggest underdog in the college football since they've gone. I think they would be the biggest underdog in championship history. So there is that element. People do love an underdog, but the juice will be Michigan, Georgia, or Michigan, Ohio State. That's what it's going to be. Jesse wants to talk about spying of the quarterback. Yeah. I feel good about Michigan's defense. There were a number of people that said it yesterday. We were talking about surprises and look at the Michigan surprises. That Michigan's defense is better than last year's defense, that's a surprise. That Michigan's secondary is better than last year's defense, surprise. That the defensive line was more impressive and the outside linebackers, a surprise. That Michigan came out and was this second half juggernaut. That they came out and slammed the door shut. That Minter not only was better than Mike McDaniel, he has one of the great second half defenses of all time with what they accomplished out there this year. Those are all huge surprises. I forgot my point. Will Johnson will have a good shot at some interceptions. Yeah, I'm with you, Troy. I'm getting to the point where I'm at that point. I'm looking forward to TCU putting their vertical passing game out there and throwing the ball at Will Johnson. Will Johnson, I feel like he could give up a play, but he could also be in position to get a pass breakup, PBU. And he is also going to put himself in position to snatch one away, maybe get a pick six. Yeah, he's on the way up. That's what I see. All right, couple more people talking spies. Here's Chris with another question. Do you think they give Edwards bell cow amounts of touches, or do we see multiple running backs getting multiple touches in order to spread out the reps? This is the time where you don't worry about spreading anything out. If the game's close, you're going in and you're going with your best players. You're calling your best plays. You're using your best players. And Donovan Edwards, sure, if Michigan gets up by a substantial amount, then you can start looking at some of the other guys. But no, I think that Edwards is going to be, he demonstrated against Purdue. He can handle 20, 25 and more carries. Give them to him. I don't think they need to when he's, runs for 250 yards and, Michigan's up by 3 scores in the third quarter. I don't think they need to, let's see him put up 300 or anything. That's when they'll start spreading it out. But no, I think that they will go with Edwards because he is the best. AJ's point is that TCU was able to come back in a lot of games because teams constantly aired it out and they don't run the ball very much. With Michigan, it might be over quick because we run the hell out of the ball. Maybe. D. Brown says the moment will be too big for TCU. They won't be ready for U of M. Do you think Mike Morris will play? Account 22 says Morris will definitely play. I'm inclined to think that I am with account 22. I think that he was very close to playing. He did play, actually, against Ohio State. And, given a little bit of rest, I think he'll go back out there. The team has been off this week. So the best guess is here. You're going to know a lot more next week. And then certainly the following week, we'll know more about, players' availability. That stuff will come out. I think, that's where you go over to the Maize and Blue review and you're right on top of that and you'll know everything. Speaking of that, there's, I saw, what did I see? I saw good news on the recruiting front on the Maize and Blue review. Certainly Michigan for the class of 24, they got a 4-star tight end and the class of 24 is looking really good. I know we've got, we're counting down the days to the 21st to the early signing period for the class of 22. But the class of 24 are really important if Michigan doesn't have the greatest class in 22, and it's shaping up that way. And also, there's very good news on Maize and Blue Review on Jaydn Davis, the quarterback out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So go to the Maize and Blue Review if you want to feel good about Michigan's chances with Jaydn Davis, their number 1 target and a 5-star in every which way that you could possibly look at it. When it comes down to Jaydn Davis, the particulars, that news, the update on that signal caller out of Providence Day is there on the Maize and Blue Review. And like I've been telling everybody, you give that gift, premium access right now for a full year, $22. Use that code I've got scrolling on the screen, MBR Holiday. That is MBR Holiday. All right. Where else are we at? Oh, yeah, yesterday. Basketball. I was not expecting this. Jalen Llewellyn got hurt in London. And the news came out that he was done for the year with an ACL. That hurts Michigan. So Doug McDaniel, the freshman out of D.C., 5'11", he got his first start. And he played spectacular last night. He was so good last night. Now, Minnesota is not a very good team. That's true. But this game was on the road and a little bit of pressure when your guy that you have as your point guard, who was your starting point guard, you handed the ball to, and now you're just a true freshman and you are out there and you are forced, like, this is your team now, in a sense, when you're the point guard. That's kind of how it is. And Doug McDaniel had such a good game. In the first 5 seconds, he turned it over, and I was thinking, oh, my God, this isn't going to go well. But then 5 seconds after that, he had a steal. I'm like, oh, okay, well, he made up for it. He only had one more turnover after that first 5 seconds. 15 points, 7 assists, 3 steals, almost 27 minutes, 5 of 6 from the floor, 3 of 3 from downtown, and a perfect 2 of 2 at the charity stripe. It was a fun, exciting, entertaining show that number 0 from Michigan put on. If you didn't see the game last night or you haven't seen any of the highlights, I know Antoine doesn't watch the highlights. He watches the whole game to get a feel of it. You'll want to see Michigan's off for 8 days. They don't come back from a week from tomorrow. They're playing a team in Lipscomb who's going to be a real easy one for them. But you got to check that one out. You got to check McDaniel out. He is fun. He is exciting. I'm ready to check this one out from Riley. How do I go to Riley? I see. Hold on a second, Riley. I'm working on it. Riley has put in a tip to the show, and I'm trying to put. Oh, here he is. Here he is. You know how you get to the front of the line? Like this. No, I'm just kidding. Riley, it's appreciated. Let's spend some time on Riley's question here. As Riley has broken a record for the tip jar here on the 9th of December. How do you feel about Shaggy as a nickname for Donovan Edwards? Because of his hair, and 2, he has that dazed and confused way of speaking. Shaggy, I like the Don. I like Dono. I like the one-arm bandit. What else are we dealing with? The one-arm bandit, Dono, the Don, and now Shaggy. I don't know, Riley, if you saw the interview that Shaggy had on the field after the game, and I think he was talking about Colston Loveland. I don't even remember how he put it. Maybe I could. I'm going to take 2 minutes and search on the internet. But he was very funny on how he said, whoa. He said something like that. Yeah, he's. I'm for entertaining nicknames. Am I ready to move Shaggy to the front of the line over the Dono? The one-armed bandit is the one I'm feeling right now, and yet I'm hoping that one goes away like everyone else over the next 3 weeks and playing TCU. Like, you can't continue to call him the one-armed bandit if he's back and he has use of both of his hands. But certainly the last 2 games, his nickname, you could go and talk about being the one-armed bandit. Dono, I'm there. And the way he speaks, it's good stuff. Good stuff, Riley. Riley, I got to say this. I don't remember you ever participating in the chat before, so welcome in. And it's great to have you in here. We do have some people talking about Doug McDaniel. He's the only true point guard on the roster. Yesterday was a good omen. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. I mean, and, Kobe Buffkin, I talked, and that's all I did is, he was the talk of the game. He was the big part of the game, Doug McDaniel. Some games, I wasn't expecting for Michigan, Minnesota to be like an exciting game. I was expecting to watch it and be like, all right, Minnesota's not that good. Michigan can get a win. Let's see them go and get a win, feed Hunter Dickinson. Boom. Let's go to their kind of break here. But then, McDaniel did what he did, and it kind of had you jumping out of your chair and everything else. But Buffkin, who I have been slow to come around on. Like, I was thinking, he hit the big shot in Columbus last year when Devontae Jones had to go out. They put Bufkin in. He hit this big three-pointer. If he doesn't hit that, I don't think Michigan wins and beats Ohio State. I don't think they go to the tournament. I don't think they go to the Sweet 16. So he hit a really big shot. And then, I had heard about him in the offseason, talking about Kobe Bufkin putting on some size. But I was watching him beginning of this year, and I wasn't thinking like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. But, they were plus 29 with Bufkin, and then his confidence and just his overall play from where it has been from the beginning of the year has doubled or tripled now in my mind. I'm not ready to talk about him being I don't even know. I'm not a star. A legit starter for a hopeful, not ready to call, a plucky Michigan team. I'm not ready to go there. I like what I have seen, though, from Kobe Bufkin. He had a very good game as well. Looking for some consistency. I would love to be sitting here a month from now and saying, you know what? Kobe Bufkin has really just continued to amaze. Ever since McDaniel got in there, this backcourt for Michigan, I hope that it ends up being something like that for Bufkin. Doug was the man. Minnesota is a bad team, but U of M needed that one badly. Yeah, that's right. Minnesota is a bad team, but what we don't need to do is do any brake tapping. Oh, tap the brakes. Oh, that's what, people want to tell you when you watch a really exciting game. It stands on its own. It was his first start, talking about McDaniel. Nobody's out here talking about him being freshman of the year, or Michigan winning the tournament, or Michigan winning the Big Ten, or going to the NCAA. Nobody's talking about any of that right now. They were talking about, and they just lost their starting point guard. They had to put in a kid who looks like he's 13 years old, and he went out there and played a hell of a game. So that's all it was. But, Dooney Don, we are able to put things in perspective. If I was some, young whippersnapper that was sitting up here, acting crazy about a performance and, saying, oh, watch out, you might say, son, you need to calm down a little bit. But I'm older than most of you now. I've been through this. We are able to put it in perspective. The Don. L.O. says, the Don. Yeah. Although Shaggy Andres loves it. People are weighing in on the nickname of Donovan Edwards. Sam was watching the basketball game last night because he says at one point in the game, I think Michigan had 3 consecutive steals. Yeah, Michigan was, when it came down, and McDaniel had a couple swipes. He's quick. He's fast. Andres is talking about a good secondary name. Gus has donned him with his title. Gus Johnson. That can happen. How nicknames stick and stay, that is something that I could probably sit here for 20 or 30 minutes talking about. I can remember back in the day, I remember doing a little recruiting. Michigan was going after this running back out of Louisiana, and I was looking at his numbers, and I had never seen a running back score more touchdowns in high school. It's like, I don't even know how many. I'm going to just say, I'm going to throw a crazy number out there because it was crazy. This guy scored like 100 touchdowns in high school. And I'm thinking, 100 touchdowns? There's nobody that can score more than 100 touchdowns in high school. But this player, his name was Anthony Thomas. And he ended up committing to Michigan. And, he was a freshman for the 97 championship team. And at one point, I think it was Keith Jackson, because I had given Anthony Thomas a nickname. He was from Louisiana, and he had scored more touchdowns than I'd ever seen anybody ever score. So I thought, hey, how about this? I have to admit, it's not the catchiest of nicknames. But I said, well, what about the Louisiana touchdown machine? And that's what I was calling him. And then Keith Jackson one game was like, and there's the A train. Like, the A train. And then, but Jackson said, Fred Jackson, his running back coach, told me that they call him the A train. And then everybody called him the A train. I'm like, okay, just give it up. A train is a little bit easier than the Louisiana touchdown machine. A train rolls off the tongue a little bit easier than the Cajun Louisiana touchdown machine. I trimmed it up. I think I had the Cajun part in there first, but yeah. We get more basketball talk. Look at this. The coach isn't going to be happy with this. The basketball's not physical enough for him. But Adam is saying we need to continue playing inside out to be successful. And Williams needs to be our effort guy in conference play, kind of like our Draymond. Our Draymond. You're talking about Terrence Williams? Well, I've got a little confession to make. Terrence Williams II is my favorite player on the team. I picked him. I root for him. I like him. And I would like to see him step up his game. He's just a fun guy to root for. I'm not saying he's the best player. But so anybody, I'm going to say that I am biased towards TW2. It's my guy. So you talking about him, needing to be the effort guy. I think he gives the effort. You know what TW2 needs more? He needs more consistency, and he just needs to be able to knock down enough 3-point shots because he takes them. And I think at times, I say that he needs to make more 3-pointers, but I think maybe his game is more intermediate. Post him up and let's see him go take an off foot, fade away from 15. Let's see him get down on the baseline and put a series of moves, like he's back in the 70s. He's old school. Let's see him drive to the lane and use his frame. To me, that's Terrence Williams. But, he needs to stay in there. He needs to be more consistent, needs to score more. And I think they need to line him up a little bit, run some plays for him where you just get out of the way and let him operate. I don't know what Juwan would think of that. Juwan would be like, yeah, okay. That doesn't sound like something. Let's just freelance and let a guy, our fourth option on offense. Let's run a bunch of plays for him. And Juwan's probably saying, okay. So what did you think, Antoine? Did you want the highlights last night of Michigan basketball or not? Tomorrow maybe I'll put a poll up on Twitter, and we'll see. You guys will all have to go to Twitter, and then you'll have to vote. I don't know if can I put a poll here? I don't know. I'll work on that. Dono carries the ball with a strong hand. The one-arm bandit. Okay. What else do we have? Well, we do have one other thing that we wanted to get to, and that is the playoffs. Playoffs. Yeah, if there was a 12-teamer this year, it would be pretty interesting if they had the 12-teamer that they're going to have in 2024. Michigan would not be affected because they take the top 4 conference winners and they get a bye. And so that was Georgia, Michigan, Clemson, and Utah. Ooh, Clemson a big winner here. As if you look, they've got 2 losses and they're ranked 7th, but there they are. They get a shot coming in right behind Michigan and they get a bye. Also, who benefits would have been a team like Utah. They go out there. Utah lost 3 games this year, and yet they get a bye. under the 2024 12-teamer because they were able to win their conference and be one of the top 4 conferences. Oops, I don't know why I went that way. So those are the 4. So that ended up working out. What you see here is that seeding becomes a pretty interesting thing because Kansas State, who was ranked 9th, and Utah, who was ranked 8th, both of them won their respective conference championships, but Utah got a bye and moved to 4, and Kansas State was relegated to having to go on the road as a conference winner and play at Tennessee. That's a tough one. But that's those are the rules. I like having the conference championship mean a lot. You might not like that or however it goes, but we also see that a big winner here is Tulane, who won wherever they play, the American Conference. They were at 16. They were able to get into the college football playoff. I like that. Actually, if I was a Green Wave fan, I would say, hey, we can beat TCU. Tulane and TCU, they're kind of the same part of the country. And then the winner is able to get Utah. How about that? And these are at school sites. I do think that the only thing looking at this that I would want to happen is if I was ordering up the college football rankings, I would just flip around USC and Penn State because I would like USC to go to Ohio State, and then I would like to see Penn State go to Alabama. Those would be better matchups for me, and I think the selection committee could do that. I say selection committee, the playoff ranking folks, which I think is the committee, right? So, that's it. And it would. The one thing you see about that is there's still going to be controversy, but it's going to be about who gets a home game. And wow, this conference really was one of the top 4, and you're able to get 3 losses and you're able to get a bye. Yeah, it's different now. That happens, but you're also one of the top 4, and it puts those conference, that championship Saturday, this past Saturday, it puts it in a higher spot. It's worth more to be able to be one of the conference champs. So I like that. And then if you lose that game, you have an opportunity to get in as well. I like that. I like the expanded field. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how much I'm looking forward to the Big Ten scrapping the divisions altogether. Like if they would have done that this year, Michigan would have played. They would have known that they were playing Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. So heading into the game against Columbus, there would have been at least 3 or 4. Maybe Donovan Edwards wouldn't have played. Maybe Blake Corum wouldn't have played. Mike Morris wouldn't have played. That would have been a different approach, knowing that you have another crack at them in Indianapolis on a neutral field the following week. That's going to affect some things. It's going to be a little bit more like the NFL. And then, you might have to play them a third time. As we sit right now, even where we're at right now, Michigan might have to play Ohio State a second time. And I'm all for it. That means Michigan would win, and Michigan would be Michigan's already beat Ohio State once, and I feel like, they'll have a better shot at beating Ohio State a second time than beating Georgia. But I think Michigan is going to have a shot, whoever they play in the championship game, if they get there. And I'm not rooting for Ohio State, but I won't mind if it happens. I'm not going to be sitting here like, oh, well, that sucks. I'm going to be for it if it happens that way. Okay. In the remaining minutes, let's get to some of this feedback. The Gladiator is saying, as I read this, Jaydn Davis has an in-home with Jim Harbaugh. Ooh. I can't confirm, but I can't deny it. Davis may be ready to commit soon. Maybe sooner rather than later. Hey, Gladiator? That would be some great news. I'm going to say it would be good news. It'd be better than good news. Uh-oh, you can start talking about this. I could sit here for another half hour and I might as well. Read it. It's from Richard. Also, one of the top feedback contributors in 2022, Richard. Others might say Night Train Lane was a beast. Now, if you're talking about Dick Lane, was Dick Night Train Lane a friend of mine? No. But sometimes you get lucky in life, certain things. Some people are born into money, other things like this. It just so happened that Dick Night Train Lane, when I was in high school, maybe a year or two after high school, I worked at a gas station in Livonia, 5 in Newburgh, a marathon station. And right around back from the marathon station, there was a little shopping complex, and they had a few things, a parts center, party store, and a hair salon, and I don't remember what else. But there was a lady that ran the hair salon named Joni. She was a big sports fan. She came over one day and said, tomorrow, Night Train Lane is coming in. I do his hair. You should come on over and say hi. And I was like, she's like, he's a Hall of Fame football player. Sure enough, I don't remember if I knew who Night Train Lane was or not, but I went over there. And Night Train Lane was there. And I did get a chance to talk with him, and I sat around. And after he was done, he said, come back again, kid, something like that. Been a long time. But what I remember is the next time I did go over there, and then this time around, I stayed for a lot longer. And at one point, Night Train Lane, who did give me, I'll see if I can find it. I've looked for it. It's got to be in the house here somewhere. He gave me a picture and he autographed it. And I would think so that was a very precious keepsake that I would have that autograph somewhere. You know how those things go. But I can remember Night Train Lane. He let me, it was just me, Joni, and Night Train. He handed me his Hall of Fame ring. And he said, I don't know what he said, but I said, can I put it on? As he was getting his haircut, he's like, yeah, go ahead, check it out. So I just put Night Train Lane's Hall of Fame ring on my hand. I don't remember how long I wore it. I don't remember any of that. What I do remember is that Joni served up apple martinis, but I don't know if I would have been underage. Would I have been drinking apple martini? I don't even like mixed drinks, but maybe I did back then. And maybe I just had a sip because, maybe it was the holidays. I don't remember all that part, but I did wear the Hall of Fame ring from Night Train Lane. And Richard, I don't even know if you're talking about the real Night Train Lane or if you were talking about the A Train and Night Train and just coming in there. But when I see that, and anytime I see Night Train Lane, it's I don't even know if it's one of my better stories, but it means a lot to me and I like telling it. I don't even know if it's a good story, but I do tell it. And Richard, that was once in a lifetime. Let's see more of what is happening here. Montrell's talking a little recruiting. Been riding his coattail. Moore decided to go to Oregon. Oh, you're talking about Dante Moore. Dante Moore. Yeah, yesterday. That's what you guys remember me talking about Dante Moore. Oh, Dante Moore's visiting somebody else, isn't he? He's not Dante Moore, who's totally committed to Oregon, or is he? He's taking a visit now to UCLA. Is that right? I didn't even think UCLA was on his radar. Now Dante is opening it back up. Is that right? Or am I just making that up? Maybe I was dreaming about that. About Dante Moore. All right. Yeah, everybody have a great weekend. Marcus is saying, yeah, UCLA, all of that. That's it. The weekend here for sports fans, and you think, oh man, no football tomorrow. They leave the Army Navy game, and it does stand on its own at 3:00. That's why I'm glad. I am glad that I'm a big college basketball fan because I'm really able to make this transition, and this transition starts tomorrow at 3:00. Sure enough, Army and Navy will play. I usually watch that game. Also at 3:00, Alabama is at Houston. The Tide is number 8 in the country, and Houston is number 1. So you got a top 10 matchup. The number 1 team in action at 3:00, college basketball. I'm going to watch that. Kidding me? Nate Oates, Calvin Sampson. And then later that night in a Vegas Classic, you've got number 10 Arizona and number 14 Indiana at 7:30. So there's nice 3 options tomorrow. And then for the next 3 weeks after that, there's no college football on Saturday, but the NFL moves to Saturday because there is no college football. And so then you'll have a triple header next week with the NFL. The following week, you will have bowl season starting up for whatever you think that might be worth. Actually, that starts on the 16th, bowl season. It's not a very good bowl season, especially in early going. But you also have, so this is going to be Christmas Eve. You've got NFL all day long on Christmas Eve. And also, there's a triple header of NFL games on Christmas Day. Yeah, Christmas Day is turning. Christmas Day used to be, and now I'm talking about being old again. Christmas Day used to be like no stores were open, everything was shut down, and this wasn't all that long ago. I mean, you couldn't get anything that you wanted, and then sports. Was there? You're opening up gifts. You're spending time with the family. You might maybe watch a movie at night or something like that. There was no sports. But sports on Christmas Day now, how long has the NBA been doing it? I don't know. But, they put a half dozen games. They start out. I usually watch one of them, to be honest. On Christmas Day, depends what the family schedule is. But now on Christmas Day, what's my wife going to say? You're going to watch a basketball game and 3 football games? I'm going to say, no, I won't do that. But then you go through, Christmas triple header. New Year's Day is usually reserved for college football. That's a full day of NFL. January the 2nd, with Michigan already secured and being in the national championship game, a Rose Bowl. You get a great Monday Night Football game. The sports calendar looks pretty nice. I was just looking it over for the rest of December. My whole point to this little last minute or two is, if you're a college football fan, don't be sad about football taking a break. Michigan's out there. The excitement builds. I'll be back on Monday, and I'm going to be all into everything that's going on with Michigan, talking about it. Everybody's fired up about the Wolverines. You guys were all fired up today. Dante Moore is I want Dante Moore still. Maybe he is just chasing the biggest money, but maybe I don't know what he's doing out at UCLA. They're going to up the signing bonus for him. I tell you what, playing, that he's like, I can stay in the Big Ten. I'd like to see Michigan get a commitment from Jaydn Davis by the time I come back here on Monday. Okay. That's it. I appreciate everybody for joining us. I'm taking 2 days off from talking. I'm not going to talk until Monday. That's when I'll be back at 1:00. Until then, thanks for